Warm welcome to my dear friend, Professor Helio Fred Garcia. How are you, Fred?
Well, thank you, Ken. Thank you, Faye Shapiro. And thank you, PRSA New York. However far we can see, it is because we stand on the shoulders of those who came before. And I have been blessed to stand on the shoulders of some giants, including 45 years ago, Dan Edelman, and the young kid right out of business school who had just started to run the New York office, who for whatever reason decided to take a chance on a geeky graduate student in ancient Greek philosophy who didn't know what public relations was, and Richard Edelman hired me 45 years ago. 43 years ago, I worked for and with Art Stevens. And then 40 years ago, with Harold Burson. And with Buck Buchwald of Burson Marsteller, who encouraged me to get PRSA accreditation, and once accredited, urged me to join the PRSA New York board, which of course I did, and many others along the way, and I would not be standing here if I had not had the opportunity to stand on all of their shoulders. But of all the things that I've been privileged and blessed to do over my 45 years so far career, the most gratifying has been teaching public relations at New York University for the past 37 years. I began my 38th year 2 weeks ago. One of my very first students was Jean Salvatore, and another of my very first students was young Ken Kerrigan. Ken later became my intern, and then again became my student, and eventually became my client, and then became my colleague as a professor at NYU, now going on 13 years, and again became my colleague when he published his own book on our future in public relations, an excerpt of which appears in John Dourley's and my book, 5th edition of Reputation Management, The Key to Successful Public Relations, Sustainable Organizations, and Corporate Communication. 22 years ago, New York University asked me to work with John Dourley to put the finishing touches on a proposal to launch a master's in public relations in corporate communication. It launched 20 years ago this month. We are honored today to have sitting at the president's table the department chair of the Integrated Marketing and Communications Program, in which public relations and corporate communication is housed, Dr. Kathleen Rennie. Thank you for bringing the master's program to the next level. And we are very proud that in the last 20 years, the program has 3 times been named the #1 public relations education program in the United States. In my 38 years teaching public relations, and another 13 years teaching public relations military practitioners at the Defense Information School, I have had the privilege to teach more than 4,500 public relations professionals as their teacher in front of a classroom. If you add the hundreds more that I taught because they were my clients, or yet hundreds more that I've taught through master classes and certificate programs for the Public Relations Society of America, and several hundred more in China through the Institute for Public Relations and Corporate and Strategic Communication at Tsinghua University, it comes closer to about 6,000 students. And as is written in the Talmud, I have learned much from my teachers, but I have learned even more from my colleagues. But it is from my students that I have learned more than from all of them. So thank you, students. I close now, as I close the celebration of every public relations graduating class at New York University. The first professor of public relations ever at any university was Edward L. Bernays in 1923 at New York University. Bernays was teacher and mentor to Chet Berger. Chet Berger was teacher and mentor to Jim Lukashevsky, fellow PRSA, and for the last 39 years, my mentor. I have been teacher and mentor to Ken Kerrigan and to many of you, and Ken Kerrigan has been teacher and mentor to many of you. So we now have an unbroken chain for 102 years, from Bernays, who handed the torch to Berger, Berger handed the torch to Lukashevsky, Lukashevsky handed the torch to me, I hand the torch to Kerrigan, and Kerrigan and I hand the torch to each of you. And now let me address the young people and the students in the room. So now the solemn duty falls on each of you to not break that chain. However far we can see, it is because we stand on the shoulders of those who came before. You have each stood on the shoulders of others, and now others can stand on your shoulders too. Thank you.